In the previous video, we talked about Musket cartridge in East Asia. One of the Musket cartridge is bamboo cartridge with a bamboo tube, which seems the early cartridge of European musketeers. So in this video, let's will talk about the cartridge, but there is extra equipment related to this kind of bamboo cartridge. And really, this secret equipment could be tied around their waist, and also, although the equipment had the same function, it had many different appearances in the different countries of East Asia. The story is from abroad. When I studied the name of the parts for a musket in Manchu language before, except those part name like front sight, rear sight, rumble, etc. Here, I found a special word which was not like a part of the gun, but more likely it was the equipment of the gunner. So now afterwards, I made many videos and saw more materials about the Asian Chinese musketeers in history. Finally, I think it's time to make a video to talk about this equipment. So what is the word? This is 九龙带. In Manchu language, it's 无人喜欢的孙塔. So what is this thing? Firstly, we need to know this might be a kind of sunta. Usually, this was a kind of a small bike, and was a kind of night bike of the pro players or hunters of racing eagles for putting the meat, feeding their eagles. And usually, they tied this kind of night bike around their waist. Plus, the explanation in the dictionary is both the 无用家人无非马拉菲 The meaning is that the clothes is sold in a thing that's like a bike and can have 9 spaces to carry the tube cartridge. And this is 无用喜欢的孙塔. But in fact, there is the point that we need to notice. Although inside this thing had 9 spaces, this was a special number in the traditional Chinese culture. It might be 虚数. Usually, the ancient Chinese scholars use the number to express the concept of many, a lot, and those people usually wrote this kind of special number, like 3, 900, etc. So, 九龙带 might have not only 9 spaces to put the cartridges, just like that famous old photo of the Qing dynasty matchlock soldier. We can see there are 11 spaces in his cartridge bag. In fact, when we reopen the war pendants in the Qing dynasty, many soldiers usually also tied this equipment around their waist. And when we zoom in, we can see their cartridge bag will not have only 9 spaces. And of course, there were some pendants in which the bag had just 9 spaces. So this equipment was created in the Qing dynasty. I think it was not. It was more likely an improvement from the cartridge bag in the Ming dynasty. In the firearm book of the Ming dynasty, we can see there was a thing which looks like 九龙带, but have some differences, like the space could hold 2 bamboo tubes and had a different shape with the bag of the Qing dynasty. Eventually, it developed its own uniqueness. When we mentioned the equipment of the Ming dynasty, the Korean cartridge bag, we cannot ignore it. This equipment was called 九官有带 or 九官用 tende in Korean, which means a boat for bamboo tube. In fact, the Korean version was more like the version of the Ming dynasty, and the Korean version also could put 2 bamboo tubes into every compartment of the cartridge bag. So finally, every Asian Korean musket soldier usually could carry 20 bamboo tube cartridges. When we see the Chinese cartridge bag and the Korean cartridge bag, when we find that the design was similar to the European bandolier, but the European bandoliers were just as long across one shoulder of the musketeer. Finally, we talk about the Korean equipment and the Chinese equipment. So the Japanese cartridge bag that we can't miss. Although it was in East Asia, it had a different look from what we see in the former of both countries. In Japanese language, this equipment was called Douran. Actually, it's like Sunta in China. Douran was not a military gear totally. Besides the military function, it also was a kind of a small boxy bag that could be tied on the waist to carry seals and medicine or carry plants for the gatherers in the wilderness. Usually, this kind of boxy bag was made from leather or cloth. For an ancient Japanese musket soldier, Douran was their cartridge box. In history, this kind of Japanese cartridge box had many different shapes, but most of all were boxy shapes. The soldiers would put the bamboo tube cartridge into the box. To be honest, this kind of box might have a very long life. After Japanese entered the modern era of the military, the soldiers started to use the bolt-action rifle. This kind of cartridge box had another new life in the new era. Just like the Japanese soldiers in World War II, we can see the soldiers still tied the similar box on their vest to carry those rifle bullets, but they always carried 3 boxes that were smaller than the ancient Japanese soldiers. Okay, this is today's video. Hope you can like this video. Have a good day. See you next time. Bye.